Greetings everyone, welcome to another episode of the Essential Talk podcast. What is essential to talk about today is intellectual property rights, something which is trending today and is also considered as future. So for the same, to talk about the same, we have with us today Advocate Priya Rao, who has an experience of 23 years in the field of IPR, that's intellectual property rights, and is also the founder of Priya Rao and Associates. Her expertise is in the field of IPR, specifically patent and copyright. It is an honor to have you on board, ma'am.
Thank you, Vaibhav. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here and for this opportunity to be addressing this lovely forum on a week where we are celebrating the World Intellectual Property Day. It is on the April 26th, and the theme chosen this year is IP and youth. That is innovating for better future. What better platform today when I'm talking about IP amongst the youth? This is the best I could have asked for. Thank you.
Right on. Again, it's an honor. So without any further delays, let's begin. Let's talk about intellectual property rights. So ma'am, IPR, intellectual property rights, is something which comes to the mind of young generation, especially in this digital age. So ma'am, we have seen that IPR has become more significant. Why is that? Why is IPR more significant now than before?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good question. IPR today has really caught, because in the last 2 years, we had this unfortunate COVID time. Things which were in the brick and mortar, space now has gone into e-commerce space. The digital boom, the technology boom. There is a lot of focus on startups. Startups have come in to picture, and that's where the requirement for intellectual property right has also boomed. In the last few years, I would say 2 years because of COVID, which has come in, which everybody was using the electronic platform. And prior to that, the government also had seen that Make in India was another agenda of the government, that you have try and encourage the innovators, bring the brands in the country. So the government in the last 2 terms has focused on Make in India. It is encouraging innovators, it's encouraging startups, it's encouraging individuals to come forward to protect IPR. So that's why we see a little the growth and boom in the last few years, and particularly in the last 2 years, we've seen a lot of growth in this space.
Right, ma'am. So you just as mentioned that obviously, due to unfortunate reasons, everything was online and everything came to e-commerce platform. So how do you link intellectual property rights to startups? Like how much important it has become for IPR when it comes to startups, according to you?
It is for specifically if you're talking about startups, it is very important because when you are spending a lot of money, you're investing a lot of money. You have to choose your brand well. If for startups where there is technology and there is software involved, it is for you to protect your IP, your creativity. Therefore, it is very important when you talk about startups, the funds are scarce. So they would like to reserve their funds, but one needs to understand that it's your startup, and it'll all big companies talk about Facebook, Microsoft, or Uber. These are all startups. They started from some garage somewhere, but then today they are $1 million brand. So you have to make sure that you protect your IP. Look for brands which are very, very unique, and there is some background, there has to be a thought towards brand. Then do a clearance search, register it. Also similarly, if it is an innovation we are talking about, before you publish it, if it is an idea, file for patents. If it is a software that you have developed, register your software. So or if you are into literary work, creative space, music space, take care that you have protected your rights first before you start developing your business, because that is most crucial. And IPR, let me tell you, after time, after a year, 2 years, 3 years, that's the price. It fetches you the best economic price of in your business, and that will hold a big amount in your balance sheet.
Right, definitely. So it is, so according to you, even I feel that it is important to get your idea registered first before building it up further. You need to have the right to do that, because even I agree, it's a competition out there, and these big companies before beginning wants to get their rights registered. So yeah, so ma'am, what was your motivation to pursue intellectual property rights? Because this is something which is trending now, but this wasn't seen. If I go back 10-12 years back, this was not something which was taken up by a lot of young professionals, young lawyers, I would say. So what was your motivation, or what was your motivation to pursue intellectual property rights?
Okay, I think when I started my practice way back, I was very passionate towards brands. For me, it would always be very intriguing to see, brands. And at that time, very few brands were in India.
Right.
Indian economy opened to foreign investments in '95. And of course, there was a boom in intellectual property rights. Particularly, we were looking more in the space of trademark and copyright. Patents were still developing. So brand was something which was I was very attracted to that space, and that actually turned into working in that space. So it became a passion, and when you're actually working in a field where you're interested in, it's no longer work. I'm really passionate. Even today, when I see, I have been fortunate over the years having represented many brands. And I think, when you see them grow from a small size, and the strategies they took and to develop it to that big size, brand today, which is valued on $1 million, I feel very good. Having been traveled with them from the beginning to where they are today, being associated. So that was my passion towards taking IPR as my subject. That apart, also copyright was another subject which I was really passionate about. I did represent for a very long time the publishing industry. So at that time, books, how it is, novels, books, was something which was my favorite. And when you would see pirated copies on the street, you'd feel your blood would boil to say that, hey, I paid 350 rupees for this very book, and it's being sold on the street, vendors selling it for 50, somebody else is buying for 50 rupees. So that was again another client I represented in the for criminal enforcement in the copyright space. So I think one built into another, and the love and passion for something turned into profession, and it no longer was work for me. It was only a passion project.
Right, well, very rightly said that if you pursue your passion as profession, it is no longer your work.
Yes.
Right, it's something that you love to do, and that was very motivating, to be very honest. And it would have been I'm pretty sure that would have been a great experience, a great journey, full of ups and downs for you in this field of intellectual property rights, right? So, ma'am, since you have already been in this field for pretty much long time now, there are young lawyers out there who are aspiring to be an intellectual property rights lawyer, right? So since IPR is a very vast field, and this is something that I have personally observed, that they fail to understand the intellectual property rights as a whole, because it is very vast in nature. When you mention the term intellectual property rights, it includes a number of things, right? So can you just throw some light on the sub categories of intellectual property rights so that our viewers get some more clarity on that?
Certainly. So, you should be knowing that intellectual property rights has four basic pillars of branches of law. That is trademark, copyright, patent, design. That's the four basic pillars. That apart, we do have geographical indications.
Right.
You do have plant variety law, and also you do have information technology which overlaps with intermediary rules. That is again another space where you go under. So coming to the four major branches of law under intellectual property rights, trademark covers marks, protection of brands, that's what we call. And once I discuss that, then maybe I will tell you what are the subsets under that. Then you have copyright, which is again it protects creativity. You talk about patents, it protects innovation. And when you talk about designs, it protects your aesthetics of a product. These are all different branches of IPR. And under this, you do have prosecution and you have litigation. So what you do in the beginning, once as a prosecution lawyer, you will advise clients how you can register your maybe a trademark, or how to register a copyright, how do you register your design,
more
how
like
do you
consultation.
Yeah, basically there, and then you help them register it. And when it comes to litigation, you help them in enforcing rights.
Right.
You can use a civil route, you can use a criminal route. So as for students to know, it can be advisory, it can be civil enforcement, it can be criminal enforcement of all the subject, and you can choose or you can handle all of it too. That apart, also there is custom law, which overlaps, protects the border. So custom law is again an overlapping space where as an IPR attorney we get into.
So custom law is another branch under the intellectual property rights law? Or is it something separate which is apart from IPR law?
No, as a IPR, so as a if you have to protect your IPR within the territories of India, and if you want to let not the counterfeit or pirated goods come into the country, then you have to protect it under the customs law. There is a provision by virtue of which you register it with customs. So it's not a big space, but it is one subsect of the enforcement. That is, if you have registration, you can protect your brand, your IP in the customs, and you will not let anything enter inside the country which is not authorized by the proprietor. So that is under the customs law.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. That has helped me get clarity, and I'm pretty sure to other viewers as well. So which brings me to a fact actually, or a question rather, which is the most practiced area under the intellectual property rights. As you mentioned that there are four pillars or subcategories to it. So in today's time, according to you, what is the most practiced or most taken up field under the IPR?
All has its own relevance. To the if you are asking trademark, because of brands, we've seen. I think it won't be
one.
Yeah, it can't be one.
Right.
Everything is like you see growth in all the areas of practice, be it trademark, be it copyright, or being patents. Of course, patent litigation has grown a lot. of late, we've seen a lot of litigation and enforcement in patent. Earlier, if you talked about 5 to 7 years back, major litigations where an enforcement was trademark, copyright, or designs. So the trademark enforcement was right on top, and then it became copyright, maybe where they were both at par, and then design, and patents where very seldom we would see any enforcement, any litigation in that space. But now we see a lot of litigation in patents.
So
Enforcement
people are
as well.
moving more towards the patent litigation side.
No, I would yes, but that's one. The other reason also is because the IP office has also has speeded up its prosecution and registration. Earlier, we didn't see registration of patents for years to come. Now you have grants, so
Right.
the proprietors are taking actions where there is a violation.
So just a minor clarification here that once if a particular young lawyer takes up trademark prosecution, so can he practice the other fields as well after he specifically specializes in suppose in the area of trademark prosecution? So can the lawyer go ahead and practice and file patents etc. as well, or he's just restricted once he start practicing trademark prosecution, he's limited to that?
There are two, answers to that. Basically, as a lawyer, you can practice anything, including patents. But when you're talking about filing, a trademark, basically, science is needed for patent filing.
Okay.
You need to have science background. And for that, you need to also register as a patent agent. There is an exam that you have to take if you're from the science background. If you've graduated in science, you give an exam and you become a patent agent. Every year there's an exam for that. So
Right.
that is an additional requirement for patent prosecution.
Okay.
But it is not for any other area of subject, be it trademark, be it copyright, be it geographical indication,
Right.
or for designs. So I would, in fact, will urge youngsters, don't, limit yourself to anything specific. I started my career as a trademark, in the trademark prosecution side first,
Right.
but went on to becoming a litigator, a criminal enforcement lawyer, both in copyright, trademark. I do designs as well, and now with the firm, I'm also handling, patents. It's a subject which anybody can pick up if you're interested. Yes, for filing, you need to have a science background. You have to be a patent agent for that, and it's a very technical field for which you need engineers or high level education, so that you can sit down and understand the innovation with the inventors. So therefore, you need a science background.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, this is something that I believe that most of the people don't know, that this is a misunderstanding or a misconception that you don't need a science background if you want to file a patent. But I believe it is required. It's a requirement. Is it a written requirement if you want to go and
Yes.
file a patent? You have to be from science background. Is it a written requirement?
It is to file in the patent office.
Okay.
You have to be a patent agent. To be a patent agent, you need to have you should qualify that exam, and for that exam, you need to have a science background. A non science background cannot file. But having said that, for enforcing, once the application is filed, and if there is an opposition, as a lawyer you step in, but you need assistance from with a technical background.
Technical background.
This is also required when we file litigation in court. It's a very technical subject. you need technical people to assist us.
So it goes hand in hand when it
Yes,
comes to
yeah,
filing.
yeah. So lawyers do, so the technical background people sometimes are not equipped to handle,
Right.
contentious matters. So that's where a lawyer steps in to handle contentious
Right.
matters.
Right. So, when it comes to a particular profession, any profession, do you really think, is there, according to you, any skill set which is required or any prerequisite which one should have before going ahead and practice intellectual property rights as a lawyer?
Uh, f- Qualification?
Qualifications or any particular skill set which might be soft skills, etc., according to you, important or required, not actually required, important, or that could something that could benefit a person who is looking forward to uh, practice intellectual property rights.
I would say that if your heart is in it, you love the subject, uh, one should pursue the passion. I mean, that's the only mantra to become a good IPR lawyer. Of course, there's a lot of reading, and you should know your laws well. That apart, I
Right.
don't think so. There's anything else that will make you a good IPR lawyer.
Right. So, ma'am, this again, this brings me to another question that a lot of students pursue law here, and then go abroad and pursue masters in law, which is the LLM in intellectual property rights. So, are they allowed or permitted to practice in India after they are done masters abroad?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So my suggestion would be is that once you finish your law, you've done your LLB from India, register yourself with the bar. There's a bar exam, compulsory bar exam that you have to give. Give your bar exam, and then go for your masters, which gives you that even if I mean, because you'll go away for almost 18 to 24 months,
Right.
you don't lose out on your seniority, because your seniority is based on your registration with the bar, not when you qualified. So if you register and then go, and you can come back and practice. So you have your bar registration intact. Come back and register. Absolutely, you can. Um, there is no restrictions on that. In case you don't register yourself, come back and register yourself. Give that exam. It's a simple bar exam.
Bar exam.
Yeah.
So it's not actually, many of the people, young lawyers, after completing their 5-year graduation, directly go abroad to do LLM, and they don't, actually register for bar council. This might be a scenario I've personally experienced. So is there any harm or is there any disadvantage to it when they come back after doing their masters and then give their bar exam? Is there any
No,
disadvantage in
the
doing that?
only thing that is, you lose your seniority. So supposing you want to do, you want to give your um, exams for becoming a judge, or there, or sometimes you have to. I mean, I think it's only where you have to become a judge. You need sometimes 5 years. You want to qualify, so you lose out on that 2 years of your seniority. So rather, why do you want to lose your seniority? It's only for
Right.
for the purposes. It's just a practical tip. Not, there is no harm if you don't want to, give your exams to become a judge. Then I think it's okay.
Right. So, ma'am, this brings me to actually a question that in certain country, right, even in our country, there are free resources available which are not covered under the intellectual property rights. So, all those free resources which are readily available for access somewhat pose threat to intellectual property rights.
For example.
Right, ma'am, there are certain free available resources on the internet. If I take an example, right, maybe certain example ideas which are there, right, which are not actually registered under someone, right. If I have an idea A, B, and C, it's there freely available on a particular website, right, and it is not registered by someone, and I go ahead and register that. So, ma'am, don't you think it will actually take away the credit of the person who has published it.
See, basically IPR, it actually only is for motivating creativity and for motivating innovation. It motivates novelty. So underlying requirement is that it has to be free of any copying. It has to be your own. It has to be original. So I mean, depending on what is
The
being
idea
picked,
is, right.
what is being picked and how relevant it is, the answer is don't do it, because it definitely violates. If it is not yours, if it's somebody else's, it's not yours, and you can't be an owner to it. So like for example, when you're researching, there is somebody else's article, and you don't, because it's online, it's not free to you. It's somebody's work, labor, effort which has gone there. They've put it on the online. It's there online. Everything
Right.
is available, but it's not yours for the taking. But of course, there are certain exceptions. If you're doing some research and you're picking up some extract which is from somebody else's article, pick that, but acknowledge the original owner. As regards ideas concerned, if you're talking about idea which gets, when you talk about if it's covered under copyright, you don't have an exclusivity on idea. So, if they can be two, novels based on the same idea. If you're talking about maybe a father-son rift, dispute, son becomes rich, whatever.
Right, right.
This kind of a, idea is a storyline. Two people can create the same storyline. So if there is a storyline that you have got, you've got influenced by, and you've created your own original literary work, then there is no problem. But it has to be your original, your efforts, don't put your efforts and energy in picking and changing somebody else's work. It has to be your work. It is original work that can be protected. If it is copied, be what may, it can be stopped.
Right. So there is just a little confusion which I have. Suppose, as I mentioned, that there is an idea. Suppose how to write a book, for example, right? And that is an idea. If you take it as an idea, right? And it is not registered, and I take it, right? Add one or two and other things to it, and get my idea implemented. So can the person who has published it on the website file a case against me for under the copyright?
Yes. Yes, because if it is substantial reproduction of somebody else's work, even slight modification is infringement to that extent. You can be injuncted.
Right. So you can actually file a case.
Yes, and effectively.
Right. So this brings me to, I would like to talk about in detail as to when it comes to IPR, intellectual property rights. It is seen that IPR, it plays a very important role in biodiversity as well when it comes to utilization of resources. Can you just throw some light on that as well? What is the major role of IPR in the biodiversity? Because this is a subject which is being taught in many of the colleges, in many of the curriculums. And to be very honest, on a personal level, I fail to understand that why intellectual property rights is important when it comes to biodiversity. So can you just throw some light on that?
Frankly, I haven't handled any matters on biodiversity, and I will not be fully equipped to give you that answer.
No, that's perfectly fine. So just moving on to the last question. IPR is, something, but copyright, patenting is something which comes under intellectual property rights. So is the future? It is also, when it comes to IPR, it is also known as is considered as the future of the country or a particular idea. So just your views on how will intellectual property rights boom in the coming time, if you can just give your views on that.
It has a great future, frankly. As the budding lawyers, you should know that over the last several decades, today intellectual property rights laws in India are quite robust. It is well structured. It is at par with international laws. And it is not constant, and it's evolving every time. There is new challenges which have been coming in. So when you have good strong law, and at the same time which is also progressive, it is also matching up with the current scenario, and also the government with the new challenges are alive to the fact that amendments needs to be made. So when you have all that, and also the enforcement agencies are fully equipped today, they are educated. We have special courts for IP protection. I don't see why we don't have great future. It is going to be even more better for in the coming years. I think it's a great subject, and one should consider.
Right. So just one thing I would like to ask with regards to this, that since it is growing, as you said, it is evolving every day. So is there anything which should be under the intellectual property rights regulations, or per se should be added, or is actually missing something, any loophole which is missing that you think should be there? If it would have been there, it will actually eventually boost up IPR sector even more faster. Anything?
Like I said, because we are a member of the WTO, and TRIPS has provided for the basic standards for standard guidelines for how the laws of a particular country, which is a member country, should look like. It is actually doing, it has taken care of a lot of things. Having said that, there are few places where still some development needs to be done, basically on the infrastructure. I would say that though we have now special courts, but still there is a lot of pendency in old cases. There needs to be more, the intellectual property right matters are under the Commercial Courts Act. These are special courts where you file it under. There are special judges who are trained judges who can look at it. The volumes are growing, but the courts are less, and some courts, I think Delhi High Court is one court where now we've got 2 judges exclusively presiding on intellectual property matters. But that apart, other courts in India have to also follow the same system. It's yet to happen. So what is happening is there is a delay. That is one thing. You need more judges who are trained, and in taking the matters and concluding the matters. Trial takes a lot of time. That is one. Similarly, the IP offices, there's a lot of pendency in matters. Applications do go through. So basically, the infrastructure has to be one place where I would say that we need to look at. That apart, I would say I'm a criminal enforcement lawyer too. And the original the requirement was, if there is a criminal offense, if you're caught, selling counterfeits, or you're caught, selling pirated goods. Um, your imprisonment was up to 3 years. Earlier, that was construed as non-bailable. But now, because it's up to 3 years, the intention of the legislation was to make it non-bailable because there's deterrent. But now, but with the interpretation, because up to 3 years means it can be, it's bailable. So therefore, again, the industry has requested to consider make it a non-bailable again, because you'll have to enhance the term or define it in the act itself that it's a non-bailable cognizable offence. So that is one place I think which I can think of. Of course, there is a lot of gaps in patent law, and like I said, things are still evolving. But those are things which will, as time and as we graduate, and things should be okay.
Right. So, I just want to ask this, when it comes to, as you mentioned about the counterfeit products. So, when it comes to counterfeit products, how hard it is for IPR lawyers to track it down? Because this is something which is, in huge amounts in our country. Either it be for any brand, I won't name any brand here, but yes, it's there for everyone. So how it does, the volumes of counterfeit products, because it is done by many people, affect the workings of intellectual property rights, or how hard it becomes for you to track them down?
So it is it definitely difficult. It is definitely difficult to track them down. But for this we really require investigators on the ground. Every IP law firm and who's a criminal enforcement practitioner will always have a set of investigators who you engage, you hire, keep a watch for you in the market space, and they will identify these. There are concerns around counterfeits or pirated goods, and that's where you get the information. Yes, it's a constant. You have to have a constant lookout. It is India is huge. It's it can be, and what happens is if you have conducted you've lodged a criminal complaint, and the police enforcement team has conducted a raid in one particular area, the movement happens. So what happens if it's found in Delhi, you will not see that it's going to happen in Delhi. They will move to another location. They don't stop. These things don't stop, but you can delay it. So even the companies who are very, very conscious about their brands, also sometimes it is the health of the consumers. It is if it's cosmetics, it's a pharmaceutical product where it is the health, the danger to life is involved. There also the brand owners are extremely sensitive towards these. There's a lot of investments that go into such being vigilant, investigation team, and filing complaints and getting these orders from court and conducting these actions. This is an ongoing task, and you can't stop any time. So this is
basically, this is the unestablished process which every organization follows to track agents of counterfeit products, right? Thank you. So before we end this podcast, can you just share your reviews or anything you want to say to the budding lawyers out there?
To the budding lawyers out there, I think you're in the great field. I mean, it's an interesting field, I would say, and you have to be a student of law, a student technically for your life. Remember, studies and education, the curiosity doesn't end as you finish your 5 years. You have to be a student all through and through. If you're a student all through and through, you will make a good lawyer. Don't give up studying. That's it.
Right. In the field of law, even I believe that studying is which is limitless and goes on.
It's not constant, it's evolving, right? Every day, today there is another there would be, you'd believe there is a different precedent. Tomorrow there will be another different, yes, the interpretations and, changes. So you have to be on top of everything, and that's how you will become a good lawyer. Be it an intellectual property rights or any other specialization, be a good student of law.
Thank you. With this, we come to an end to this particular episodes. Stay tuned. Please do like, share, subscribe The Essential Talk. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.